YouTube, Facebook, and Tumblr fans, welcome to a very special review. It is the final review in my Summer of Discography reviews, as well as currently the most recent Tool album, 10,000 Days, which was released in 2006, and is much a continuation of the sound found on 2001's Lateralus, their previous album. So, I just reviewed that last Sunday, and in advance, I apologize for my crude-looking, hair and everything. It's in the mid-90s here, and I've been outside all day. So between college and work, I have been one busy man, so sorry about the lack of videos. I'll just put that out in advance. So to get on with the review, I am going to just say, like I said before, it is a continuation of the sound found on Lateralus, yet it has its own little melodic twist, like they expanded on the sound just enough where it sounds a little different. They use the same production that was found on Lateralus, but they go off in more of the metal area in the grunge fused with metal than they ever have before. So the crunch of the guitars, like I said, still there. They still experiment with different guitar melodies and riffs that they have never done before that just kind of come off sounding very unique and very sound structurally. So they keep the silent tracks to a minimum where it's just, noise or just, background crap in an intro. So that I really much appreciated, because that was one thing that was really bogging down the Tool discography for me, was just the random moments of silence or the weird kind of chanting about nonsense and just some of the weirdness that is Tool. But I suppose that is the band, so I'll let it slide. To get into the actual album itself, some of my favorite songs are towards the beginning, but I do like it towards the midsection as well. There's a lot of really fast-paced stuff on here, a lot of really crunchy, intense, and aggressive songs on here, as well as just kind of the slower ones. So, we begin with the slower song Vicarious, or Vicarious, however you want to pronounce it, which is very tense, and it just kind of builds up tension as well as intensity, and it picks up speed as it goes along to form more of a mid-tempo song. The crunch is still there in the guitars, and the vocals, they're still using the same vocal effects used on, say, The Grudge from Lateralus, as well as many other songs on that album. So, I really like just kind of the raspy tone that he uses, and I don't know, he just kind of experiments with different ways of singing, and that's why I really like the latter half of the Tool discography when it comes to the official albums. So, Vicarious, one of my favorite songs overall, and I would say that, this album, just overall in general, is one of the best Tool albums. So, the next song is Jambi. This is a fast-paced one, almost like, reminiscent of Parabola from the previous album. It's very set in its ways with the riff structures. It's very complex, and the singing is just very raspy as well. The vocals are well done, and the production overall and the quality is just over the top practically on this song. Another one of my favorites, Wings for Mary. This is a little bit of a slower one, and it gives way into the intro that is 10,000 Days, which is aka Wings Part 2. So, I guess they kind of combined the two together, and 10,000 Days is my favorite part of that kind of dual song structure thing. So, 10,000 Days, Part 2 is probably my favorite on this album, with the exception of Jambi and Vicarious. Those are just top-notch for me. Wings for Mary, couldn't really get into it because there was just too much of just kind of nothing happening. Much like I said, it was bogging down the Lateralus and the rest of Tool's discography, bar their EPs, but I digress. So, The Pot. This is kind of a weird one. I do like it, but the singing in the beginning is just a little bit off. I don't know. Not off in a bad way, but just off in kind of like a weird, atmospheric kind of way. I don't really know how else to describe it. But then it slowly gets back into the crunchy, grunge, metal-infused, guitars that Tool is known for, as well as kind of the more normalized vocals for John Maynard. So, the next one is, of course, Lipin Conjuring. Didn't like this one. It's another intro, another one of those random kind of tracks where just nothing is really happening. It doesn't really even provide an atmosphere for the next song, which is Lost Keys, Blame Hoffman, which isn't one of my favorite tracks. It's I think it's a little bit more filler, but I can definitely see what they were trying to do with leading into Rosetta Stone, which has to be honestly my favorite song on the album, clocking in at 11 minutes and 11 seconds long. This is the album's lucky number. So, It kind of starts off in a weird fashion with some really weird rambling from the vocalist Maynard at the beginning for like 2 minutes or so, but then it kind of gets into this guitar melody and it's more mid-tempo. It gets a little bit faster, but it's very intense and it builds up tension, much like the first song on the album, Vicarious. So it kind of dredges on for a while, but then the guitars are really heavy, really crunchy, and the drums are just off in the distance, and it's the perfect atmosphere. The next is, of course, Intention, another one of my favorites, very intense, and I guess it's called Intention, so it has tension, so it's kind of the two mixed together. But it has a very good structure, and it's about 7 minutes and 21 seconds, so it's a little bit longer. And, you know, like I said, the guitars are just very well placed, very well crafted song. Vocals are just spot on, and I really like it. Right into and Virginity Trace. Ugh. Feel like someone who can't even pronounce song names now. Right into and Virginity Trace. These are more of the same kind of thing where, you know, Right In 2 has more of the, you know, atmospheric kind of guitars and chanting vocals, but Virginity Trace, it's just kind of like a song where nothing's really happening, and that's the problem. I don't mind when nothing is happening, or like when there's just kind of static, or, you know, some kind of intro that doesn't involve singing or guitars or riff structures or anything like that, as long as it's leading into something. It's setting itself up for something, or just capping it off right there. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Leaving This World Behind, just because it's, you know, kind of something like on the end of Lateralus as well. So, I don't know. It's just one of those things. But for me, 5 minutes was a bit overkill. So, that aside, it is a great album, and I hope Tool go back to making albums sometime soon. I don't really know all the details on it. As I said, this is my first listen to Tool's entire complete discography, so there's not really much I can say about the band's history, aside from what I've learned through what I've looked up. So, with this album, though, I'm going to give it a solid 9 out of 10. It's one of my favorites by Tool. I actually have to say that I like their latter two albums, versus Undertow and Enema. I do like, you know, Undertow and Enema for some songs. Like I said, you know, Swamp Song and Sober are just really badass songs, but others, it's just kind of iffy for me. But, you know, nevertheless, I'm giving this a 9 out of 10, and I hope Tool goes on to release more albums. If they do, will review them in the future, but this will cap off the Summer of Discographies portion for it. I hope this Tool album discography will be plentiful, and I can't wait to see what comes next. Well, but until then, keep calm and rock on, guys. This is Midnight Strike 3625, out.